Chapter 7 deals with the subject of deviance. And the question is, what is deviance? How is it defined? How is the definition formed? Who does it? Who does the defining of that which constitutes deviance? Almost all sociologists agree that deviance is a social construction, because many things that are wrong in some societies are not wrong in others. And much depends upon the power structure in the society. People who are in power are those that make the laws. Those that are out of power are those that accept the laws and are frequently affected grievously by them. The poor, for example, in the United States, are much more likely to go to jail than the rich or the middle classes are. And that has a lot to do with economic opportunity, the availability of jobs that lead to wealth, and it also produces those folks who can't have access to wealth by normal means of schooling and of hard work, and those who feel that it might be easier to rob somebody, rob a bank, rob a convenience store in order to get cash. And that's precisely what happens. These people are the ones who are pursued by police and prosecuted and the courts and are punished by going to jail. Most of the over 2 million people in the United States who are in prison at the present time, prison or jail, are folks who are more than likely to be poor folks than they are to be middle class or rich folks. Does that mean that the rich middle class people don't go to jail? Oh, sure they do, but not very frequently, not very often. What does all this mean, the issue of deviance? There are people that you will read about, like Emil Durkheim, and Durkheim says, look, deviance plays a very important role sociologically. There's a stress on rules. You find out what the rules are, and you find out what the limits are, what you can do and what you can't do. And when you begin to define deviance, and you define deviance in terms of punishing those who are deviant, you make it very, very clear to everybody in society what is deviant behavior and what is not. So Durkheim says, look, it has a usefulness. The very existence of deviance has social purpose. Others say there are other ways of looking at deviance sociologically. Merton does, a man named Merton, and he insists that, look, if opportunities aren't available for doing things correctly, doing things the right way, doing things what are regarded as ethically correct way, then people will find ways to do them that are not ethical or not correct. They say, look, there's a strain. If you want money, if you want rich, if you want prestige, if you want to be respected, you've got to find ways to earn it. And people who can't do it through what are called conventional or legitimate means, including schooling and other things, they are likely to resort to things that are not necessarily legitimate or things that are acceptable. There are other ways of looking at deviance. Some folks say that if you are labeled deviant, a man named Sutherland, for example, has a theory called differential association theory. And Sutherland said just exactly what my mother used to say. If you hang around with those guys, you're going to get in trouble, Dick. And I used to hang around with those guys, and sometimes I got in trouble. But differential association means you hang around with folks who have a different set of values, a different set of beliefs, a different set of behaviors, a different set of expectations, who valued other things than those that were in the mainstream or conventional stream, then you're more likely to do the things that they did. So some of my buddies got in trouble. And when I hung around with them, I got in trouble too, and my mother was right. That's Sutherland's differential association theory. But you have to remember that deviance is associated with who's in charge, who makes the laws, who profits from the way things are. So that you will find that people who are in positions of power can frequently do things that aren't necessarily regarded as respectable. In the current economic crisis, for example, the CEOs of major banks got in trouble when they were called by the president to come to Washington. They, as well as the CEOs of automobile companies, chose to arrive in private jets. And that didn't go over very well when the media picked up the fact that these rich folks all came in their own private airplanes. It was a funny way to react to an economic depression. In any event, many of them were bailed out anyway because they said they were too big to be punished for what appeared to be a deviant act in the way that they used money. And that has caused a great deal of dissatisfaction and discontent. In any event, corporate crime, white-collar crime does exist. And people do get caught occasionally in it, but not as often as poor folks get caught breaking conventional laws. There are such things as hate crimes as well, and those have to do with concerns of ethnicity, race, gender, and constitute part of the picture of deviance that has to do with power again and who's in charge. Our criminal justice system, particularly the system of penology, the existence of prisons, is probably one of the most expensive in the whole world. The English, the Dutch, the French, the Germans, they don't put even half the proportion in jail that we do. We define deviance very, very broadly. And some people, in analysis of that, say that our laws, some of our laws, particularly those involving drugs, are much too stringent in terms of punishment. So there has been a movement to try to modify those laws. It is predicted that someday, probably within the lifetime of folks now alive, that some drugs that are presently illegal will become legal, among them marijuana. There is a movement to try to legalize the possession and use of marijuana in the United States. But possession right now carries with it a prison sentence in most states of specific amounts of marijuana. But a change will probably occur, and hopefully it will reduce the number of people that are presently in jail for drug-related crimes. Those are the critical issues. There is another one that has to do with the death penalty and its potential abolition. Most of the folks who were executed in the United States are executed in only 2 or 3 states. Most states don't do it anymore. The chief state that offers the death penalty and the primary method of punishment of people as the capital punishment is Texas, and they are by far in Texas more subject to the kind of criticism against the use of the death penalty than folks in other states are. It may be possible to recognize that eventually the death penalty itself may be abolished as a cruel and unusual punishment for deviance. All European countries, including Russia, now ban capital punishment. Japan also bans capital punishment. So most modern industrialized nations no longer exercise that penalty, and it's probably likely that in the United States it too will disappear. Those are the primary issues that are in that chapter on deviance. I hope again that you enjoy it, and I look forward to the discussion of deviance with you. Take care.